Welcome to Health and Care Scrutiny Committee, and we've got one main item to discuss in a public setting, and then we are going to be moving into a private setting for some updates that are private and confidential in nature, but we will get to those items and explain the reasons when we get to them. So have we got any apologies, please, Carrie Ann?
We haven't got anyone who's unable to attend, but we do have apologies for people leaving early. So we've got Councillor Gareth Jones who will have to leave early, and we've got Councillor Ange Williams, Councillor Sean Cox, and Officer Sharon Powell will be joining the meeting late.
That's absolutely fine. Members, has anyone got any declarations of interest in relation to anything on the agenda today? I can't see any hands up. Just having a flick through, everyone.
Well, apologies, Chair. I can't find my hands up, but
That's okay.
item 9.
Okay, thank you. We'll make a note of that. Thanks, Councillor Deb. Okay, anyone party whip? No. Okay, item 4, which is minutes and action log. I'm going to move that to the end of the meeting if that's okay, just so that we can have some time to review that, just so that members of the public are aware. That's where we look at previous recommendations that we've made as a committee, and then so actually I'm gonna sorry Carrie Ann, I'm gonna park the action log, but I'll do the minutes now. But we'll look at the action log at the end just so that we can see whether there's anything we need to follow up. But in terms of the minutes, has anyone had a chance to look at the attached minutes that we are authorising today? It's from the 19th. Have we got 2 sets of minutes? I can only see the 19th ones.
There's a 29th of November as well.
Yeah, I can see that listed. I can't see the link to the document. I know I have seen them before.
They are there, Chair.
Oh,
They
okay.
don't have. They're just below in the same link on the
Oh,
slide.
they're in the same link. Yep. Okay, I have
Yep.
seen those. That's fine. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for those, unless anyone's got anything that they need to raise? I can't see any
Carol's
hands.
got it. Yeah, there.
Hi, yes,
Okay, I'll take Gareth as proposer and
and I'll
Carol as
second.
second
Yeah.
to approve those, please. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so moving on to item 5, which is the Corporate Safeguarding Board Activity Report, which we get regularly. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Richard Church to introduce this item, and then Nina to talk us through the headlines of this, and then we'll go on to members' questions. So welcome, Councillor Richard, to Scrutiny. Thanks for joining us today. Are you able to introduce this item, please?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Councillor Amanda. Yes, as you say, this is a regular report that we bring to you of the Corporate Safeguarding Board. We report to you quarterly, and the report also goes to Cabinet, and Cabinet members attend Corporate Safeguarding Board too. I think probably the major item on the agenda, and the first one that you will see there, relates to the follow-up audit review that we had last autumn. And we have the results of that follow-up, which shows that we've completed 7 out of 11 of the recommendations that were made to us in the report that we received 2 years ago now, and we are making progress on the remaining 4. But I will leave it to Nina Davis, who's the Director of Social Care, to take you through the report in more detail. And I hope that you will find that the comments that you made at the last meeting about wanting to receive fuller reports with more information in them, that we have sought to do that in this report, and I look forward to your feedback.
Yep, thanks, Richard. I can just come in on that point, actually, in that we've already commented in our pre-meeting that this is definitely a more comprehensive report. There is one comment that's come through in that there is some reference to confidential items that were presented to you. And so I think we just need to ask the question really as to whether or not you guys feel that that would be helpful for us to have those separately and have this partly considered in public and partly considered in private. But I'll leave that with you, and I'll let Nina come and take us through the highlights.
Brynhound, good afternoon. Thank you. The report you've got in front of you today for information is an updated activity report from the Corporate Safeguarding Board, which took place on the 12th of December of last year. So this report summarises the information provided and discussed at that meeting. Item 2.1 of the report shows that we reviewed progress against actions in the Safeguarding Regulatory Tracker. So this is a standing agenda item. You'll note we've got one item left on the tracker. We've agreed to leave it and review that in 2025. As Councillor Richard has explained, the main item of the meeting was about the Audit Wales follow-up inspection. Really positive follow-up and recommendation. Well, no recommendations at all coming forward. So that was really positive to note. We took through the board through the full follow-up inspection report, which has also been to Governance and Audit Committee as well. We noted that 7 of the 11 recommendations from the previous inspection had been fully completed, with plans already in place and progressing for the remaining 4 recommendations. We've included the detail of all of those recommendations and comments against all of those within the report for your information. There was a good discussion on that after. We looked at the number of training policies, impacts on volunteers, etc. So really good discussion about that, not just within education and staff and volunteers, but other corporate departments as well. We talked about the HR system, Trent, and how we are looking now to move training modules for volunteers onto the HR system. So that'll be a really improved way that we'll be able to monitor and oversee training of volunteers across the council as well. So we talked about timescales for doing that, and we'll have an update on timescales at our March meeting. We talked about having 2 separate policies for schools in terms of volunteers. And we noted within the response within the meeting was that policy in education is for schools to adopt. So it's not a council policy, but it's the 2 are aligned. We also talked about the contract management framework and systems, and that the tender for that is going out in early 2025. And we talked about the estimated timescale for that implementation as well. We had a good discussion around schools' mandatory training compliance. We've now got that available on a BI dashboard, and we're looking to make that available to individual schools and head teachers. We sought assurance as a board that that dashboard is being monitored and any follow-ups with schools is undertaken. We also, a suggestion came that the dashboard be provided link to Chair of Governors as well to help enable governors to do their role in terms of challenge and assurance as well. So that's going to be looked into. It was confirmed that the contractor's guidance for safer recruitment is being updated, and that will be done by our next meeting. We completed this item, but just a real big thank you to everyone who's been involved in delivering on those recommendations, including board members, to make sure that we're driving improvement in corporate safeguarding arrangements across the whole of the council. We received an update from the Regional Safeguarding Board, and we've included a summary of the items that the report covered. So policies and procedures, regional training, new training opportunities. The single unified safeguarding review update was provided as well, and we've included the link within the agenda for your information as well. National Safeguarding Week, task and finish groups, AI, an area of interest regionally, nationally at the moment. And of course, locally, we've got a lot of work happening using data and AI to support our work across the council. We also, JICPA, latest JICPA report, overview report, MAREC funding arrangements, rapid review template, and we also had some papers from the Older Persons Commissioner, so no queries were raised on that item from the board. Safeguarding Self-Assessment Action Plan. This was a new dashboard that was presented to the board, which has taken all of the different actions from the self-evaluations of all the different service areas, and we can oversee it as a board. So it was the first time it was presented. We had a really good look at it and a play with the system, and there are some suggestions that have gone back to the team to how we think we could even improve the dashboard even further. So that's going to be brought back to the board in the future as well. We discussed the Education Safeguarding Action Plan. This is a confidential item, but I'm just noting here for your information that there were 6 priorities with 90 actions and milestones, and it's confirmed that 80% of those actions have already been completed, with just under 85% of the milestones achieved. So a lot of progress being made against that, and we're going to have a more detailed written report brought to our March meeting as well. We received an update on the JICPA, so the Joint Inspectorate Review of Child Protection Arrangements, which took place in October 2023. We had an update on the work following that. We've talked about just a refresher on what the inspection looked at, the focus, the methodology, real positive findings, which I know we've discussed here previously, but we also looked at the areas for development, and the action plan was brought forward as well. So we've, as a board, requested that a further update on that action plan is provided in 6 months, so we can assure ourselves of progress being made. We then looked at mandatory safeguarding training, noting all the different various aspects of safeguarding awareness and training and VOWDA SV. So report highlighted the mandatory training was completion rate at the time of 95.7%, which is absolutely excellent. So a real big thank you to all service areas for that. Real conversation around volunteers and making sure that volunteers where appropriate are undertaking the mandatory safeguarding training. And as I said earlier, we will be using the Trent system as well to monitor compliance in the future.
Sorry, Nina, just to pause you. Is anyone else getting some echoing and feedback?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we know why it's just
If
started?
everybody could just mute if they're not speaking, I think it might be feedback.
Okay, I'll try
Okay, carry
again. Thank you, Chair. So we looked at the VOWDA SV training framework, noting overall compliance for corporate staff of 93.2% and school staff for 62.1%. And we also talked about the national training framework achievements. So really high compliance figures were noted by the board, but we did highlight and pick up on the lower compliance rates within schools, and that was discussed as well. A query was also raised about volunteers within the Countryside Access Department, and an action was for the head of service to go away and review the appropriateness of that training being extended to Countryside Access volunteers, and that will be brought back to our next meeting as well. We then had an item, again marked as confidential due to the information that was included with it on national and local elective home educated pupils. But I provided just a kind of briefing of what we discussed, attendance in schools, policies, practice, but also noted the work on absence as well. Has been recognised as best practice by the work the Powys Education Service has been doing on absences has been recognised as best practice, etc. So I think that's really important to note here and recognise as well. We then received a number of reports for information only, and what we've done here, Chair, is included a summary of the report. The reports are a lot of operational data that wouldn't be appropriate to be sharing publicly, but we've provided a highlight summary as requested to give you that more information of what we are looking at. So in terms of housing, adult services, safeguarding information, children's services, safeguarding performance information as well, a lot of which you would receive within your monthly performance updates. We've included there the single unified safeguarding review guidance for your information as well, and also some feedback on the National Safeguarding Week, which took place in November of last year, with a theme of the right help at the right time. We've also provided a brief update on the Mid and West Wales Safeguarding Children and Adults Board's annual review. And then we've just noted there the future corporate safeguarding board meetings of March, June and September. So I'll finish there, Chair. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Right, members, I know we've got some questions. I don't know who wants to kick off. I know there's some questions on the training levels in schools. So was that you, Councillor Chris?
Yes, Chair.
Do you want to start us off with that? Sorry to put you on the spot.
It's okay, it's not a problem. And that on the Nina, thank you for a very comprehensive report. And I will say that you know, it's very good. It's got lots of information and it is an improvement. So to you and Richard, well done for doing that on the, I think it will progress moving forward, and I'm sure the committee will add some additional commentary to make that more robust for you. I liked that you made reference to the regulatory tracker and on there. And what my first question is in relation to, it states on there about the council being more fully aware of some of the different mechanisms to promote corporate safeguarding. And I just wanted to understand that a little bit more, and which of those different mechanisms have we introduced which have made the most significant difference in bringing us to giving us more assurance that corporate safeguarding is being taken more seriously than what it had been previously. So that would be helpful. I'll stop at that point to give you an opportunity to do that, because there are some other queries that I've got around volunteers and also around some of the training, which I'll come back to.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chris. In terms of, I think the question is how we've embedded the importance of corporate safeguarding across the council. Can I just check I've got your question right? Or
Yeah. I mean, it says about different mechanisms. So you have listed in part of the report some of those mechanisms. I mean, training and development is one of them.
yes,
But that's the catch-all. What I'm trying to get is about really the culture of the organization. How is it? How have we changed it? It's to me, there needs to be like a passion around doing this for the right reasons. And how have we embedded that? How have we made that change? Because the symptom would be low engagement in training and development. Is usually because it's not being promoted. Something has happened. There is a difference to be getting 100% for violence against women and domestic abuse. The mandatory training up to 92, 95%, as you mentioned, is saying something's happened. It's different. And I'm just trying to understand that for the purpose of the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. It's a really good question, and a lot has happened. I think there's been such a significant change in the couple of years since the previous inspection to the follow-up inspection. Lots of really positive work. Communications, I think we need to start there. You know, Councillor Richard and myself both doing communication, making sure that we were visible and people understood our role in terms of corporate safeguarding. We've created web pages to set out that information as well. So everybody's got easy access points to access, you know, information on safeguarding, where to go if they've got a concern, you know, so that sharing of information has been really important, and sharing that across the whole of the service, using examples, you know, so this isn't just an education or social service things, this is every service area, and helping to kind of spread the message that no matter what role you have in the council, you can play a role in safeguarding. If you're out collecting bins, if you're a housing estate officer, if you're having contact with people, you all could have the opportunity and perhaps the need to consider safeguarding, etc. So that communications, I think, Councillor Chris, is really important. Of course, we've started our spotlight on safeguarding as well. So there's really regular messaging, because it's not about just messaging once and it's tick and it's done. It's about how we embed and sustain that. So that's where our regular spotlight on safeguarding, I think, has been really successful. And, you know, and thanks to, I'm pretty sure that was a Scrutiny suggestion as well that it came from. So from yourselves, and we've really spread the distribution for that as well, which I think has been really important. Making sure that everybody understands it's their responsibility and embedding safeguarding, I think, has been really important. So every service area does an annual self-evaluation process, and we've now embedded safeguarding within that. So it's not something separate that's got to be done. It's actually a key part of every service area's self-evaluation, is that they consider and look at safeguarding. And I think that's been a real positive as well. And I think the fact that we are doing these activity reports every quarter that come to yourself themselves, that go to governance audit, that go to cabinet. We are regularly keeping corporate safeguarding at the forefront of people's minds, and that all helps again. So there's been a really detailed action plan that's sat behind that we've worked our way through. You know, which has been really important as well. But we've got lots more to do, and we've got, you know, areas of focus that we've picked up on within the board. Really strengthened the work of the board as well has been really key. So that's a couple of highlights, Councillor Chris, but does that answer your question?
It does, and you picked up on some of the things. I mean, about visibility. Some people see visibility as not being present. But sometimes just by being present, even not saying something, states that you're engaged in that process and brings others along in that. And I remember doing some research around that, about the visibility of change and about leaders being present is on the, so that's pleasing to hear. And I think the use of case studies is a useful one. I was a little bit concerned when I read through the paper about volunteers, that the training for volunteers wasn't compulsory. It was like an option. And there was part of some of the other commentary was around volunteers' time, and obviously if they're doing that and there's a significant proportion to do, have we looked at how we can do that in an effective way that is still giving us the key requirements to fulfill, but to not make it too onerous, which then would put volunteers off? And do we know, and not necessarily to say today, but do we know the number of volunteers that we have, the number of hours that they provide in, and the type of areas of where they're going into? I think would be helpful for the committee, certainly for myself in relation to that. And then just to pick up in relation to some of this, in relation to the school staff, it was at 61%, I think, in this report. May have shifted a little bit on there. I just surprised it's so low, and I just wanted to understand your interpretation of why that is. Where is the accountability lines in relation to this? Does this lie then with the individual schools? Because I think you indicated that. So if that's the case, it'll lie with the governing body. And I'm a governor on a primary school, but I'm going to start asking questions in this area now. But is this something that it affects more primary school staff, or is it secondary schools? And are we putting additional burden then onto those schools to be able to do something which, as we've started, this is about corporate responsibility? And I just wondered whether we got that scenario completely right. And I'm going to stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Really great points and challenges there. In terms of the volunteers, the area of volunteers is going to be one of the priorities of the Corporate Safeguarding Board moving forward. So we've recognised the questions that you're asking are questions that we've been asking as well, you know. And you're absolutely right. Making sure we get that balance is right between making sure everybody's supported appropriately and understand their roles and responsibilities in terms of safeguarding. Absolutely vital for volunteers as well as staff, but also making sure that the balance is right and appropriate to whatever role they are undertaking as well. So that is a work in progress, Councillor Chris, and we'll be able to give you more information on that moving forward. And one of the, we mentioned, and I touched on briefly there in the activity report, is using the existing HR systems that we've got moving forward now for volunteers as well, is going to really help us to answer and keep an easy kind of check on the number of volunteers, etc., and where they are, what they're doing, etc. So it's an area I think of, I know it is an area of absolute focus moving forward, Councillor Chris, and perhaps at a future meeting we could have a bit more of a detailed update on that for you. In terms of the schools compliance.
Sorry, can we make that as a recommendation, please, Carrie Ann?
Yep, that would be great. Thank you very much,
you.
Chair. And in terms of schools and compliance, this is again an area that the board has picked up on of a priority to look at. And I know the school service are doing a lot of work on that. Obviously, we've got the corporate safeguarding role, so making sure the oversight of it all, but the education service and learning skills would have a role within to play as well. There's this a BI dashboard you'll note within the report has been put into place, and we're looking to make that available for schools and head teachers. And a suggestion of one of the members of the board is that we make that available to chair of governors as well, Councillor Chris. So, you know, the governors, exactly as you said, have access to the information so to help them to undertake their role as well. There is an area that we are looking at making sure that the data is right for a start as well, that the figures that are coming through are right. But we also know there's a lot of safeguarding training undertaken for staff in schools, full stop. So it could be making sure that we're capturing the right information on that. So that's, again, Councillor Chris, will be another area that will be more detail coming forward through in our future meetings as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members, please?
Yeah, just a very quick follow on from that point that Chris has just made, Chair. Is this report going to go to Learning and Skills Scrutiny as well? Because of the concerns around the lack of completion by school-based staff.
Thank you, Councillor Gareth. They don't normally, but I think that's a really good challenge. So I'm happy to take as a recommendation if you wish that I share it with Learning and Skills as well.
Well, to me, we seem to have got two different systems, one for general council staff and one for school staff. I am fully aware of the different roles of the governing body, but I just think learning skills need to be aware of lack of performance by their school staff to meet this mandate. And I agree with it. It may well be they're doing the training, they're just not ticking the boxes.
We need to just make sure we understand it
yeah,
properly, isn't it?
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Anything else, Gareth?
No, so I'm just trying to lower my hand unsuccessfully.
Just a couple of quick questions from me then, please, Nina. The items relating to education that are confidential, I know you obviously can't go into detail on those, but how come they're confidential?
Different matters, but there's, you know, be aware of reasons why things can be confidential. Individuals could perhaps be recognised, or
So
staffing, or
did you get given a presentation that, for example, went through some case scenarios on children that are they're on the home educated children on the.
No, that was a report, and there was information in there that we were not able to share. Yes. National and local data that we couldn't share. I'm happy to discuss it in private session, but I won't be going into details in a public session.
That's fine. I think maybe we need to have a conversation then as to why, because it's difficult for us to know whether we should ask any questions on, for example, if you were given any assurances or if there's any trends which you are concerned about. So that was on, sorry, that one is on item 2.8, and then and the same on 2.5. I think I just need to understand a little bit more as to why that's confidential, just so I know whether to ask any questions on it.
Yeah, happy to discuss in confidential session. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Then also on 2.9, yeah, thank you for providing those the overviews of what those presentations you received. That's helpful because it just now allows me to ask in relation to where you're told that there are housing applications for care leavers, what level of questioning are you then looking at in terms of making sure that that they're being given this suitable priority, or that there's no young people in accommodation that's going to put them at risk and undo a lot of the good work that they have received from Paris Social Services. Can I just have an explanation as to, you know, how do you deal with that information that's presented to you at the board?
At the December board, this report was provided for information only and by exception. So if we had any of the board members had any of the questions, we raised it. Due to the length of time in December of the meeting, we focused mainly on the kind of follow-up inspection. So there wasn't any additional comments or questions asked at this meeting on that. But previous meetings, we have talked about exactly that, the housing applications flagged for care leavers, etc. How do we look to support our care leavers, etc. So outside of that, I know there has been work between social services and housing to look at how care leavers are prioritised within policies, etc. So that work has happened and that's come out of discussions and issues being raised at Corporate Safeguarding Board, for example. So that's the kind of thing that would happen. We'd see a trend within the data that's provided for the services, ask questions and then ask for additional work to be undertaken. Does that
Okay,
answer your
so
question, Chair?
I think so. So if
Yeah.
this is then on, it'll be a recurring item on the next
Yes.
agenda. Then
Mm.
if you've had more time to look at it and it's not just for information only, if there were any assurances that you'd asked for, if there were anything you decided actually we need to look at how we can support that, would that be in the minutes then that we then receive here?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
So if there are discussions around different areas, they will be picked up within the minutes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of the board's job is to look at this data that we're receiving and pick up where do we want to do additional deep dives in the future, where do we want to focus on, and these reports and information and data help us as a board choose those areas of focus.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's it from us. Any other questions from members? No. Okay. Right. So, thanks for Richard for that as well. I think you're relieved from duties. Right. We are now going to go into, well, and we need to resolve to go into public session. We've got 3 more items. We've got a step down cost benefit analysis, permanent versus agency social worker rate, and then a presentation on Paris Own Care Homes. Please, can I have actually, Carrie Ann, are we allowed to take all 3 and approve all 3 to go into confidential, or do we have to take each one individually?
Kath can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we can take them. We can take all 3. So it's you're voting to move into a confidential session and take those items. So you only
Okay.
have to do it once.
Yeah.
my
Okay.
understanding.
Thank you. Is that right, Kath?
Yes, that is.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay. So from officers then, are you able to please give us a quick summary on why each item needs to go to be considered in confidential session? And just so the members of the public are aware, these are actually not items that we're scrutinising today. 2 of them are for us to receive an update on, and then one of them is more of a information giving exercise. So yes, over to you. I don't know who wants to start on each one.
I'm happy to come in, Chair, if that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Hi, Joe. Welcome to Scrutiny.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I'll be presenting the report around the high cost placements, step down cost benefit analysis of close to home working. Both that report and the report around the agency workforce, we're asking to consider in a confidential session due to the commercial sensitivity of those items. There is costings within that which we would consider to be commercially sensitive.
Okay, thank you. And then Sharon, Bruin, or Rachel, who don't know if
Thank you,
Rachel's
Chair.
Yeah, do you want to mention about the Paris Own Care Homes
Yeah,
one?
the Paris Own Care Homes, similar reasons, commercial sensitivities, but also sensitivities to members of the population involved.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, can I have do we need to propose and second it, Kath?
Yes, please, Chair.
Yeah, can I have a proposer, please, for that to go into confidential session?
Councillor Depp's got her hand up. Chair.
Deb, are you happy to propose?
I am happy to propose, Chair.
Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second.
Thanks, Carol. And then I'll do it by, if anyone doesn't want to vote for this, can you put your hand up? If you're happy with this, can you leave your hand down? Just click through. Okay, I can't see any hands, so yeah, they're unanimous that we'll go into private session.